with you. Flip a doujin in the bed, I'm reading manga till it's two. Tell me that you love us if I go, I'm knowing that it's true. Cause you acting all moe and vanilla in my view. So this is for them waifus, straight 2D flex in my life, fool. If you fuck with him, tell you my dude. Let the beat right out, keep it nice and smooth, yo.
Hey everyone, welcome to the weeabooze, the anime podcast where we get drunk and talk about anime. I'm Kyle, and this episode will be a bit more laid back than usual since I'm just casually talking about my experience at Anime Expo. But afterward, I'll discuss some brief opinions on a few anime that have finished airing, as well as give my first impressions on some of the new summer anime. Also, this is not our big, important 50th episode. That will be taking place next week. I'm really excited for our 50th, though. I think you guys will really enjoy it. I basically forced myself to answer a question I've always considered to be unanswerable. And tonight I'm just drinking some leftover beer. It is Maiden in the Shade by Ninkasi Brewing Company. Anyway, let's get started. This was my 6th or 7th Anime Expo, so the whole convention ordeal is pretty normal to me at this point. I'm used to the exhaustion and the lines and the blisters and all that, so I guess the easiest way to talk about the convention is to break it down by what I did day by day and finish off with some final thoughts. Day 1 was really chaotic. Roadblocks are pretty much expected at AX, but it seemed like nothing went smoothly. Thankfully, everything worked out by the end of the day. It was just really stressful. So I was originally planning on not getting autographs this year. They're usually my main goal, but a few of the guests stood out to me, and the ones that didn't have autograph sessions. However, the night before the convention started, I get a notification from AX saying, hey, the autograph list has been updated, which meant I would be waking up at 5 a.m. to get an autograph, which I sort of figured wouldn't be early enough because when I got there, people had been sleeping out overnight. Luckily, a friend, Tumblr user Studio Trigger, was there since 3, and I managed to sneak over to her place in line. After I got my autograph ticket, it was about 9, and the convention hall opened at 10. Unfortunately, there were 2 problems. AX changed their entrance policy, and there were more people than I've ever seen at the convention before. If I were to have lined up like a good boy, I would have been several blocks away from the convention, and getting inside as soon as possible on day 1 is vital if you want exclusive merchandise. So I was a bad person and managed to sneak into the front of the line, although by the time I got in, which was right before 10, they had apparently opened their doors early to the vendor hall. So that meant there was no way of getting in line for Good Smile or to the Atlas booth because those were the first 2 things to fill up. Now, I was saved by the power of friendship once again because a listener of the podcast, L, who I was talking with in the Discord, said he managed to get in line for Good Smile and he would pick up whatever I wanted for me. So in the meantime, I went over to the Viz booth and picked up those manga replicas I always get. The rest of the day was entirely dedicated to shopping. I already knew what I wanted since I did research beforehand, so I grabbed all the exclusive items that interested me, scoped out the rest of the hall, and finished by getting presents for all my friends in the artist alley. In the middle of shopping, I did leave at one point to get my autograph by the guy who did the character designs for Samurai Champloo, so that was cool. After everything, I turned down an invite for Korean barbecue with friends because I was almost dead from not sitting or eating all day. But I did grab a drink with a different listener of the podcast, Clear Love, which was super fun. Everyone I met was super nice and super chill. I even ran into that YouTuber, ProZD. So, I mean, thank you all who stopped and said hi. After dinner, I died. I got to my hotel room, laid down, turned on some YouTube video thinking I would start getting ready for tomorrow, and I immediately fell asleep. Like, my phone wasn't charging, my alarm wasn't set, like nothing. But I did manage to wake up early anyways, so it wasn't a huge problem. But that brings us to day 2. Day 2 went great. AX went back to how they used to let people inside the building, and it made everything better, except for the fact that there were still far too many people. The vendor hall opened, and I rushed in to get my picture with Diva's voice actress, and she was so beautiful, and I wish she was my girlfriend, and I was proud of myself for being confident enough to actually put my arm around her waist and not just hover hand, so props to myself. After that, I finished looking at everything in the vendor hall that I hadn't already seen before getting in line for the Violet Evergarden premiere. Violet Evergarden is the new Kyoto animation show coming out in January. The director, main voice actress, and singer for the opening theme all came out on stage, and they were all adorable and spoke in somewhat broken English, but the anime was really good. I won't talk about the plot in case anyone wants to go into the series completely blind, but a few quick thoughts. I initially didn't love Violet, the main character, because she seemed like nothing more than the emotionless doll trope, but by the end of the episode, it managed to justify her character really well. And more than anything, it was the best-looking KyoAni show I've ever seen. A while ago, I mentioned that I think anime is approaching a shift in quality, and I think Violet Evergarden is at the forefront of this movement. I think complex and extremely detailed character designs are the next big thing, and that's what Violet Evergarden did really, really well. So immediately after, I rushed to the Studio Trigger panel, and they talked a lot about Little Witch Academia before finally revealing 3 new anime in the works, the most noteworthy being Promare, which is the new Imaishi work, and Imaishi is the guy who worked on Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. The Fooly Cooly 2 panel was right before Trigger and overlapped with Violet Evergarden, so I couldn't make it to that, but I did manage to grab one of the free posters that they were handing out beforehand, which was lucky on my half. And by the way, that Fooly Cooly trailer looks pretty interesting. I don't have any solid opinions on it yet, but it definitely looks interesting. It looks like what you would think A1 Pictures imitating Gainax would look like, and it's very unique in and of itself. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about it yet. I'm sure people were having similar thoughts regarding something like Gunbuster getting a sequel after such a long time, and I think Diebuster turned out great, so I don't think we should be too doubtful, and I think they have a very good staff on Fooly Cooly 2. But we'll have to wait and see. And that was pretty much it for day 2. Someone did stop me, though, to ask if I was the YouTuber Critical, who I apparently look like, which I thought was funny. So, day 3 was the most laid back. I just tied up any loose ends and spent most of the day checking out Cosplay before going to a Lupin premiere, which got me a free t-shirt, which was awesome. That night, though, was the Asian Kung Fu Generation concert. Before I even talk about the concert itself, though, as I was waiting in line, a woman behind me struck up a conversation and told me she's from Japan. She found out about this concert the day before and flew to LA just to see them. Like, she kept saying, like, thank you so much to my husband, while bowing and laughing, and she was just super cute. But that was just crazy to know that there are fans that are that dedicated. But once I got inside, I met another cool stranger and had a nice talk with him about the convention, which is rare because there are a whole lot of weirdos who try to start conversations, and then they can make your experience sort of awkward throughout, waiting in line or whatever you're doing at the time. But the concert, though, was a very surreal experience. Like, what do I even say about a concert? Like, it was sick. About half the tracks they played were anime openings, so imagine a packed venue of anime fans losing their shit the moment they hear, like, the first few chords of a Naruto opening. Like, it was so insane. It wasn't until I got back to my hotel that I even came to the realization that I didn't understand the language, I was just so immersed in the concert. It was such a great experience. It seems so quick after talking about it like that, but that was my experience. I'm back now. I'm recording this the day after I got back, so it is July 5th. Jeremy picked me up on the 4th, and we actually watched a few of the new anime that came out that I needed to catch up on. But I do have some final thoughts about the convention. Overall, I had fun, but going to Anime Expo is hard work. I think the convention needs to do something to minimize. There's too much to do with too little time and too many people. Another thing is that I struggle with trying to live minimally while also having a hobby that advocates collecting. I could and would buy most things at AX, but like, you have to ask yourself, when does it end? Will this t-shirt really bring me happiness? Like, I just found out if you went to the screening of A Silent Voice, you got a little unique film strip, which I'm incredibly jealous of, but at the same time, like, what would I do with that? You know, like in the artist alley, there's so much beautiful art and I would just love to own it all, but they all come on like 11 by 17 pieces of paper and there's only so much you can do with it. Like, conventions advocate greed and sort of bring out the worst in fans, which is sort of unfortunate, but fans really do give meaning to the word fanatical. The people there are very, I don't know a nice way of phrasing it. They're intense. And that's coming from someone like myself, which is saying a lot. What else? I guess the last thing I'd like to bring up as a final thought is cosplay. And I'm not sure how I want to word this. I think my problem is that I like sexy cosplay, but I realize it undermines cosplay as like an art form. So sure, I realize like just airbrushing your Farah armor took you a month alone, but there's a girl in a yellow swimsuit claiming to be Tracer, over there. So why don't I just see her instead? They're equal in my mind to a certain extent. And like, for example, I saw these girls cosplaying as the Underground Student Council in their prison outfits from prison school. But their pants were only pulled up halfway up their ass, so we saw 50% booty. So like, what's the rule there? Can I look at the booty, or is that inappropriate? Like, what's their intention? I don't get it. Is it just me? Is there even a problem? Am I just sexually repressed? Am I mistaking cosplay with modeling? Like, I don't know. This is definitely its own episode, but if you're a female cosplayer or no one, hit me up and I would love to have you on the podcast because, I mean, I'm sure it's been talked about to death, but it's something I don't really have a great grasp on, the sexual aspect of cosplay. Anyways, that was my experience. I always have a fun time, but it's tough. Real quick, I want to just briefly talk about some anime that ended. Obviously, because I've been at AX, I didn't have a lot of time to, come up with any deep or intellectual conversation regarding some of these endings, but Arrow Manga Sensei ended. It was dumb and terrible, but they didn't bang, so I guess that's good. Butan Kazoku. I feel dumb for not really being able to understand why I like the series as much as I do. And as I explained before, I think some of it is due to the cultural nuance of the plot, but I still thought it was done extremely well, and I do still love that series. Little Witch ended. I thought it was pretty cheesy, but it did have one of the best animated finales of the season, and overall my opinion of it hasn't changed from what I've been saying the whole time, which I just feel like it is aimed at a younger audience. It was funny though, when I went to that trigger panel, I mentioned how they talked about Little Witch beforehand, and basically the format of their conversation revolved around pulling up like a character design sheet for various background characters and talking about like their origin story. And all those origin stories were super involved and deep and like emotional, but they didn't use any of that in the actual series. Like Susie was like apparently abandoned as a child, and in her like baby carriage there was poison, and that's why she has this obsession with poison. She's trying to like experiment on herself to sort of find out where she came from. I forget the name of the girl with the tiny robot who doesn't speak, but the reasoning for that is that her soul is trapped in that tiny robot because she was like sick as a kid. I mean, it's just so involved, and yet they did not utilize the series to like the best of their ability, I feel. But that's besides the point. Now, Tsukigakire had the most unexpectedly emotional ending. So every week I've been saying how cute it was, and it is a cute series, but the last episode blew me away with how far it went. There was a thorough amount of closure, which never happens in romance anime. The series went from a cute, forgettable romance to something I'd consider recommending to romance fans. It was a very conclusive series. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Unlike Sekai Surukado, which I had been saying, you know, this has the potential to be like one of the best of the season, and it definitely was not. It was incredibly disappointing, and it just tripped over itself and did not know what it was doing by the end. But I want to move on to the new anime. So the new anime season started. I was not able to watch any of it while I was at Anime Expo, but during today, as I was recovering from the convention fatigue, I managed to catch up on the 14 anime, I believe, that came out. Some are just continuations from the previous season. But so let's start with Kakegurui. Kakegurui is the high school gambling anime, and that, I think, so far is my favorite. It's very high energy, and I am excited to see what the story will be. The first episode was very conceptual. It just kind of laid out the atmosphere of the show and how it's probably going to feel. It has these disgusting and hilarious faces that I just can't get enough of. And it's one of those kaiji-like shows where, it's all about how is this person cheating? How do we get over this gambling? It's very, I hesitate to say intellectual, but it's something you are always thinking about while watching. So I'm looking forward to that. I watched Restaurant to Another World. It was very cute, comfy, and it's probably going to be the feel-good anime of the season. There was a new Fate. It was like how most Fate series are. It starts out like every other show in the franchise, but like the twist, I guess, is that instead of a free-for-all, it's a team deathmatch, like a 7v7 Fate series, which will be interesting. I hope it holds up. I'm not as into Fate as some people are, but, they're always fun to watch. Then there is Kipeki Danshi. It's about a talented soccer player who is a germaphobe. It was okay, a little underwhelming. It felt like it was like a weird take on Sakamoto. Like it's playing off the popularity of the weird humor that Sakamoto had, but it also has like a serious soccer element to it. It did feel a tiny bit cheesy, but I'll probably keep up with it. Youkai Apartments is very similar to Natsume's Book of Friends. It seems like it will be fun and casually entertaining, but nothing to get too excited about. I might put it on a similar level as the Restaurant to Another World. Koi to Uso was very interesting. So, like, to counter low birth rates, at 16 years old, the government matches you with your future spouse based on genetics, and the process also results in higher average intelligence of newborn children. But obviously the system doesn't account for love and all that. So the main character confesses his love, and apparently this beautiful girl loves him back. And as they're confessing, the boy gets a text on his phone that the government has chosen his partner, and his phone is all glitchy, and the message says that it is this girl that he's in love with, so, fate or whatever. And then his phone dies. And as soon as his phone dies, even though they're in the middle of a park at like 10 at night, some government officials come over and say, here's your letter, congratulations, you're getting married, and the name in the letter is different than what the text said. So that's basically where it ended. I think it will be interesting. It's not your typical romance show, even though that's what it sort of appeared to be. Now, Next is Nanamaru Sanbatsu, and that was surprisingly good. And I say surprisingly because I was sort of judging it by its cover. It's an anime about a competitive quiz show club, which sounds weird, you know, like you hit the buzzer and answer a quiz question. It hooked me. I don't know what to say. Like, I thought it was a really enticing first episode for such a specific topic. Like, I started the episode as I was thinking, like, maybe I shouldn't even check it out. Maybe I should just skip it. And the moment the opening hit, like, it was just so catchy and, you know, I was sold. So, and then the last thing I watched was Token Ranbu. It's something about two guys trying to stop historical revisionists as they travel through time, I guess. Like, honestly, it's too early to really tell if this will turn out to be that good. But I am a little bit more lenient on, you know, the plot right now because it looks as good as it does. It's a very good looking show. Now, there are still so many more. This is a Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. I still haven't seen some of the shows I'm looking forward to most. I haven't seen, like, Welcome to the Ballroom isn't out yet. So there's going to be a lot to talk about next week, in addition to the fact that it's going to be a long episode. I guess we'll have to wait and see then. If I feel like it, I will, you know, splice in some opinions on shows that come out before I publish this episode. But if not, we'll talk about it later. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send them to myself at Secret Otaku on Tumblr. We're also at theweeabooze@gmail.com, or just leave a comment wherever you're listening. We do record live most Fridays on Twitch, so join us then. And join us on Discord so you can talk to us whenever you would like. The conversation on our Discord is always really fun and engaging. Also, if you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon or leaving us an iTunes review. But more than anything, we really love it when you guys share the podcast in some sort of way, because word of mouth is the only way we get new listeners. And like always, we want to thank Hentai Dude for our intro music and Kuwagata for our outro. And like always, get drunk in anime. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
You can catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho in that tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze, sacred fire. Don't be mad, I'm lit. Catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho in that tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze, sacred fire. Don't be mad, I'm lit.